Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mr. Tingle Talks. This episode is going to be a little bit longer today, and we're going to go on a field trip of a professional commercial grade tomato production facility, also known as my garden. But that's alright. So before we get started on any field trip, we got the essentials packed. We've got a water bottle, a fanny pack. In said fanny pack, we've got a banana. We've also got some sunscreen for the road. There's nothing else in that pocket. Some s'more snacks, a headlamp, survival bracelet. What we'll most likely need is the camera battery. But anyhow, I want to talk about three things today. We're going to talk about soil preparation and getting the garden started. We're going to talk about the use of paper and plastic mulch with drip line irrigation. And then lastly, we're going to check out this pretty neat trellis system behind us. So stay tuned, follow along, and we'll get started. Alright guys, so the first stop is all about soil preparation today. So very first thing is, what is soil preparation? All soil preparation is you're trying to get your garden area, your space like that, from something like sod, like this yard over here, to this nice good soil that's ready to put the plants that you want to grow in your garden in. So why is it important to prepare a seed bed? It's really important because first you get rid of that sod and then you create an environment that's perfect for your plants to thrive, and you remove all the competition. So if you were to take this artichoke plant, it's kind of sad, but if you were to take this artichoke plant and put it straight in that sod, it's going to get choked out by all that grass. It's not going to be very good. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to come in here and prepare the garden area. You get it right for this plant to grow, and everything's going to be hunky-dory, and that plant's going to do what you want it to. So the last part of this is, how do you do it? So preparing a soil bed is really easy, but it's probably some of the hardest work that you'll do actually in the garden. There's two phases to soil bed preparation. It's primary tillage and then secondary tillage. Now this is really complicated. Primary tillage is just the first thing you do, and secondary tillage is when you come back and get the soil real nice and fine. So primary tillage, in this case, we started with this sod, and so we used a tiller and we came through and we chopped up all this sod and kind of broke it down just to the very first layer. After that, we ran over it a couple times just to kill off that grass in just a big chunk. It's kind of like a rough draft of an essay or a paper. You don't really care what it looks like, you're just trying to get it clear and prepared. And then comes in the secondary tillage part. That's when you take that tiller back through and you're going to run it over multiple times, and you're trying to get this soil broke down to something that's kind of like this that you can use and put those plants straight into. It took us several times this year just because this was a fresh, it's been sod in the yard for years, so it took a little while to get that soil broke up the way we needed to. But in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't really that bad. The tools that we used to do it were a rototiller, and then we came back behind it with a garden digger just to break up that soil a little bit more. One of the problems you can run into with using a tiller to prepare your soil bed is, if you look at the tiller when it runs here, the bottom of the tines kind of have this smooth edge to them, and so you're not actually digging deep and you're making a hard pan in the bottom of your ground. So if you come back in and go to plant, you can rub your fingers in the soil 2 or 3 inches, but then you'll probably hit what's kind of a slicked off hard piece of clay. So that's fine, but what we did is we went back with that digging tool and we just broke up that bottom layer, which I'll show you here. It does take a little bit of effort, but you can see these tomatoes behind me, they've really taken off. Actually these are peppers, that's a lie, but the tomatoes are on this side, and they've really taken off in that looser soil, and it just helps aerate it and get some nutrients down there, and so it's good to go. So kind of a quick review on soil prep. The goal of it, what it is you're just trying to prepare soil. You're getting ready in the sod, you're getting rid of all the competitive plants. Why it's important is it gives the plants that you want to grow in your garden the best chance to live and thrive. You're getting rid of the competition, you're making the soil so the roots can get down into it, and you're making nutrients available. And then lastly, how do you do it? There's primary and secondary tillage. Essentially you remove the sod and then you come back in and work the soil up until it's small and maneuverable, kind of like this. So that's the first part, soil prep 101. Alright guys, welcome to the second part of this journey today. What we're going to talk about here is the use of plastic and paper mulch within this tomato growing operation system, if I can get comfortable. So we're going to talk about what this is, why we use it, and then how you incorporate it and install it. So very first thing is, what is it? This stuff right here is just plastic mulch. This system is sometimes referred to as plastic culture, which just means that you're growing plants under plastic or paper in this sense. Why we use it is you put down this plastic here, and there's a drip line irrigation system underneath it, and what it does is it warms the soil, it keeps in water, and keeps weeds out. So over the course of the growing season, we'll turn on the drip irrigation when it needs water. It's actually running right now. And then you don't have to weed it, and it warms this soil so the plants kind of grow faster and produce quicker within the growing season. So next is how you do it. It's really easy. After you've got your soil bed prepared and it's loose and all that stuff, the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to kind of make these mounds. Now I'll show you here in this video, I go through with the rake and I make a little bit of a hill. Please don't judge me. For whatever reason, I cannot make a straight mound to save my life. But that's the very first step, is you just mound the hill up. After that, the next thing you're going to do is assemble your drip line irrigation system. This year I used a kit. It was just simple, it was straightforward as all together. Here it is. There's the different components of it. There's the kit, there's tees, there's the tubing, all of that. You assemble the kit, and the way it works, you have a head pipe and then you have runners that go down your row. After that, you turn on it, make sure the irrigation works, all that stuff, but then you're ready to install either the plastic or the paper mulch. The way this works is you take it and you roll it out a little bit at a time over top of the hill you've already made, over top of your drip line irrigation system. And as you go, you're going to come back and take what soil is loose and just cover it up over the edges. You're going to try to pull the plastic as tight as you can, and you're just going to work your way back the hill or back the row. When you get to the end, you should have a nice row that looks like this, or a nice row that looks like this over here with the paper. And after that, all it's left to do is plant. You just come back through. These tomatoes are they're spaced like 1.5 feet apart, almost 2 feet. You just come through, punch through the plastic, make sure you don't hit the drip line irrigation, and you just plant your plants. It's really simple, it's really straightforward, it takes really no time at all, and hopefully over the course of this growing season, it's going to make our product better, it's going to keep the plants off the ground, it's going to keep the weeds out and the water in, and make it a more efficient system. That's all it is, really straightforward. Really quick tips and tricks though, this year was kind of an experiment. I don't know if you can see this over here, this is actually paper mulch. It's biodegradable, it's easy to use, and I was kind of sold on the fact that I'm trying to keep plastic out of the oceans. I think it's a good cause. However, when you put this first in, it looked really nice and pretty, but now you can kind of see it, and it's flipped up and ripped up all over the place. This stuff hasn't been in the ground for maybe a month, so my vote for next year will definitely be the plastic. It looks nicer, it's easier to install, it stretches really good, and the plants are actually doing a lot better in it, but that's just something to consider. So, real quick wrap up on this. This is plastic culture. All it is plastic mulch. You install it by putting it down, drip line, putting the plastic over, all those good things. And why it's important is it keeps the water in, keeps the weeds out, and warms the soil so the plants mature and grow quicker. On to the next stop. Whew. Alright, welcome to the last stop of our field trip today, where we're going to talk all about this trellis system here. So, first off, we're going to talk about what it is, why we use it, and then how you set it up and install it. So, very first thing is, what is this trellis system, and what is a trellis system in general? All this is just a support system that these tomatoes will grow up over the growing season, and just keeps the plants off the ground and keeps them from bending over and breaking when they get really heavy with their fruit and the tomatoes later in the season. So, that's what it is. Next is, why do we do this? A couple different reasons, kind of like I said. As these plants get bigger, a lot of different things happen. They can either fall over, and when they fall over, they get on the ground. When the tomatoes are selfish on the ground, they can rot. The plants themselves, they can break, and there's all these different things that can go wrong. And so you really want to support it and trellis them so that they grow well and stay off the ground and stay healthy. Next is how you install this and what you do. And it's really dependent upon what type of plant you have. There's two types of tomato plants. There's determinate and indeterminate plants, and that really depends on how they grow. Determinate plants are like a bush type, so they grow like a little shrub. They have all these little offshoots and things like that. They're kind of short and stocky, and they're the type of tomato that you'd want to put in a cage. You've probably seen these at Lowe's or Garden Center or whatever. Just a little cage you put in the ground, and those are perfect for your determinate type. These particular varieties are indeterminate, which means they get tall and long and are really viney. And so that's why we've used this trellis system like this, that will put a string here where the viney tomato plant will actually grow to the top of it. So that's the first question. You have to figure out what type of plants you have. So now that you know that these are indeterminate and they're going to be long and viney, here's our trellis system here, and here's how you set it up. First, you just need to buy the supplies. For this, you need a T-post, some conduit, PVC tees, some string, and a T-post driver. It's pretty straightforward. Very first thing you're going to do is you're going to lay out your conduit across the length of your stuff. The conduit comes in a 10-foot piece. You put it every 10 feet. After that, you're going to come back and put your T-post at every juncture. So one at the end, every time those conduits meet and all that stuff. Next you come through and you're just going to put these PVC tees, they're 1 1/4 inch PVC tees on the corners of every T-post, and then you're going to connect your conduit with these little couplers. I forgot to mention that earlier. And all it is just you put the 2 pieces of conduit together, screw it down tight, and it holds together, and then you've got this one uniform piece that runs the length of your roll. It's as easy as it is to set up the actual hardware part of it. The next part is when you come through and you put this string. All this is just jute garden string. It's biodegradable. Hopefully it lasts the whole season and doesn't break. And what you're going to do is you're going to measure out a piece of this that's about the length of the ground all the way to 3 or 4 inches over the top of it. After that, you're going to come through, and I like to make a 3-wrap strand. I think that's just a little bit stronger, and you're going to tie it off on this top piece of conduit. After that is when you come down and actually train your tomato plant and get it started to trellis. And the very first thing you do before you tie in the string to it is you have to prune that tomato plant back, and you have to get rid of the bottom leaves and what is called suckers. If you can see here in this video, the suckers are these little pieces that come out in between the stems in the corner, and they look nice because they have flowers on them and they can actually produce fruit, but they're problematic in the vine tomato world because that makes your plant turn into more of a bush, and it focuses on growing leaves and not growing flowers and tomatoes. So you have to trick the plant by removing the suckers to actually turn into a vine and grow nice and tall like you want them to. So, very first thing before you tie on the string, remove the suckers, remove the bottom limb, or not the bottom limbs, that's a tree. Remove the bottom leaves. After that, loosely tie on that string to the bottom of the plant. Don't tie it in a knot, just kind of overhand it real smooth, because as the stem gets bigger, you want that knot to expand or be able to easily untie it so it doesn't cut into it. But you're going to tie off a little bit, and then you're just going to wrap that plant. You're going to wrap that plant around the string, and it's going to look like it's brutal, but I promise these plants are pretty tough. As long as you're not ripping and twisting and pulling, they'll be okay. And they're going to look rough for about a day or so, but once the tomato plant starts to figure out how to grow up the trellis, it just kind of comes to life and figures it out, and will go right up the thing. So that's pretty quick crash course on how this works. But again, it's really simple. Buy the supplies, put them all together, assemble it, run your line. All it is just a support system to keep the tomato plants off the ground. And again, why it's important is you prevent rot, you prevent the plants from breaking, and you keep it nice, neat, and organized. So that's the final part of our field trip today. Here's the rest. Alright guys, so this pretty much wraps it up. This is kind of the end of our field trip today. Don't forget there was those 3 things we talked about. First was the soil bed preparation. Second, plastic culture. Third, the trellis system. Soil bed prep, all it is just getting the soil bed ready so your plants that you want to grow actually thrive and they can get the roots down and do all that stuff and not have any competition. The second is the use of the plastic mulch and the drip line irrigation system. All the reason we do that is it keeps the water in, the weeds out, and warms the soil. It's also a little bit more efficient and kind of hands off later in the season. And then lastly is the trellis system. All a trellis is just a support for the plant. The reason we use it is it keeps them off the ground, keeps them from breaking, keeps the tomatoes from rotting. And this is the system we use where we've got the conduit, the poles, and the string. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. This has personally been the best field trip I've been on. I haven't lost anybody, nobody's been in trouble, and I haven't had to wait on a bus. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time. Bye.